You know the drill.
3D Classics Urban Champion. Another game in Eureka's 3D Classics lineup, and in this game's case, is anything but. Here's my secret to becoming the master of Urban Champion. You press the A button over and over again. But if you really want greater knockback, press the B button. This is your very primitive one-on-one fighter, and with this port, the camera is rotated by 30 degrees.
Wow! I'm in the future!
This strangely had the most remake put into remaking on the lineup for some reason, and it is better than the original, but that's not really saying much. That's like calling this bucket of donkey puke better than this pile of orangutan waste. This is blasphemy, this is madness, this is Urban Champion!
Well, that was anticlimactic.
It's still Urban Champion at the end of the day, a game that's so monotonous gameplay-wise it actually puts me to sleep. But I will give credit to Eureka's best attempts with this port, and I will say this. They at least put more care and effort into remaking this than Disney did with that new Pinocchio remake. The Adventures of Bayou Billy. This one is pretty interesting, as it uses both normal controllers and the Wii remote in a similar way to the NES Light Gun games I covered previously. Just like your good old-fashioned NES game, it's tougher than life itself, even having practice stages for the different levels. It's that hard. But for some reason the light gun stages are pathetically easy. These guys are practically stormtroopers. Despite going way too far in the difficulty, it's still a unique NES game worth checking out. And because the way the game's designed, I highly doubt we'll see this game get re-released, even on the Switch with gyro controls. And with that, so long Bayou Billy. One surprising addition to the Wii U's Virtual Console was the TurboGrafx 16, and with the Switch Online expansion pack, I'm honestly surprised these games haven't been added there, but right now you all may be thinking,
Oh no! Wherever will I play my TurboGrafx 16 games now?
Thankfully Konami are doing something right for once, and have done a really good job when it comes to legacy content recently, and the TurboGrafx 16 Mini was no different, and the vast majority of the Wii U's lineup are here. But that doesn't mean there weren't any stupid omissions, with the most glaring of all being Devil's Crush, a pinball game themed around hell and demonic imagery. It also serves as a follow-up to Alien Crush, an already great game, and Devil's Crush improves more or less everything. Stunning presentation, scrolling screen, awesome music, and it's addictive as all hell. Easily one of the best games available on the TurboGrafx 16, and one worth getting on the Wii U. Another game that'll likely get me banned from the church, Devil World. Another interesting NES game, with this being developed by the legendary Shigeru Miyamoto. It was released in Japan and even Europe, but never in America due to Nintendo of America's strict policies on religious icons over there. Yet for some reason Castlevania is perfectly fine. The game works like Pac-Man, where you roam around a maze and collect all the dots on screen. But this game has the devil moving the screen around to add to the challenge, like he does in Smash. The game itself may not be anything groundbreaking, but absolutely worth checking out for its obscurity, and since it's not on Switch Online, I highly doubt Nintendo will ever re-release this game again. Well, so long, Devil World.
Why am I suddenly talking about games surrounding the devil? Do I need an exorcist?
Splash or Crash? Aside from sounding like a weird take on Smash or Pass, and trust me, the North American title doesn't sound that much better, this game has you throw rocks or balls into a well and avoid obstacles while being as fast as possible. That's literally it. The backstories for each ball are pretty funny though. Not a lot to this game. I remember seeing in my Nintendo reward discounting this game, and I only bought it because of that. What else can I say about this game but
Crash.
one company that will be severely affected by the closure is Atlas. Although they have physical releases, they're incredibly expensive on the second-hand market, so you may want to buy these games whilst at a low price in comparison. And one recommendation is rating Historia Perfect Chronology, an expanded remake of the DS Classic. The game has some unique grid battle mechanics, and its main gimmick has you traveling through time to change the future for the better. Sounds familiar. And with that, Raiden Historia is a solid experience and shouldn't disappoint JRPG fans, and I hope you like dialogue.
I'd always dismissed it as some old wives' tale. Seems real enough to me.
Can I play the game now?
Whilst Raiden Historia here is over explaining its plot, Let's take a look at a unique little indie game called escapeVektor. Hey, you made it.
This has you helping Vector here recover his memories whilst escaping a CPU by filling in grids like Hicks and Pac-Man, whilst avoiding enemies. It works surprisingly well and has a good amount of depth and challenge, and the game even spreads across the 2 screens. Though the high scores can have very high expectations at points, escapeVektor is worth checking out regardless. Jett Rockett 2 The Wrath of Taikai. I'm guessing the devs didn't like that new Thor movie.
I don't blame you, that movie had toning issues.
This is your typical 2D stroke 3D platformer made by the lads at Shinin. I've talked about them a lot, haven't I? You could say I'm a bit of a Shinin head. It's not gonna blow anyone's mind, but is a very neat and polished platformer worth checking out on a console that didn't have that many 3D platformers. But sadly for Jett Rockett, he's a bit of a cursed franchise, as his original game on WiiWare is gone. And with the closure coming soon, it must suck for him and fans. I at least hope for a Jett Rockett compilation on modern consoles, but for now, so long Jett Rockett. When it comes to DLC for some of the Wii U's heavy hitters, thankfully some of the Switch ports like Pikmin 3, Hyrule Warriors, and especially Mario Kart 8 have said DLC preserved. But Smash for 3DS and Wii U are pretty interesting ones, and you may be thinking, isn't all that an Ultimate? Yes, but Smash 4 and Ultimate are pretty different games when you really think about it. And my personal Smash 4 DLC recommendations are Ryu, Cloud, Bayonetta, and maybe Corrin, where these offer huge installments to this game and even series as a whole. And with the amount of horror stories and competitive Smash surrounding Bayonetta, it's a no-brainer to keep that legacy alive.
Well, if you hated her so much, then why did you ask for her? Never mind.
Whereas the rest, they're all in Ultimate. Mewtwo, Roy, and Lucas were in previous games, kind of live on as amiibo, and their additional content can be seen on YouTube, so why bother? It's strange to think that going forward, a Smash Bros. Game will feel incomplete, and I can't even fathom to think of what will happen to Ultimate when the Switch eShop inevitably closes. Cloud and Bayonetta will never fight on Rainbow Road ever again. And while you're at it, pick up Smash Controller 2, an 89p application that allows you to play Smash Wii U with a 3DS, even though you can do it in the 3DS version anyway.
I spent £29 on content for a game that's as lively as a morgue. The things I do for these videos.
The Urban Troll Freestyle games. These games are your basic BMX physics racing games, where you go from start to finish on a level whilst maintaining balance on your bike to not fall off. The levels are well designed and very good as obstacles, and you can make your own as well, whereas its sequel is just more Urban Troll Freestyle. Although the first game is on mobile, PS3, Vita, and PC, the sequel is only on 3DS, so Trials fans watching might want to check these games out. They're not gonna blow you out of the water, but are the very least fun time killers. Crazy Chicken 3D Director's Cut. This is your basic first-person arcade shooter, where you have to shoot as many chickens invading a movie set as possible. There are only 2 stages based off horror and sci-fi. The movie references can be easily deciphered, especially as a big movie nerd. This game doesn't really have that much going to it. That's it. But for 89p, you at least get your money's worth somehow, and if this had gyro controls and costed 6 times the price, I'd be singing an entirely different song. And I gotta hand it to the Crazy Chicken devs. This game is 89.9 times more value than Kingdom Hearts on Switch. Pinball Breaker. This is your typical ball and paddle game released quite late into the 3DS eShop's life around 2019. But unfortunately, the geometry in this game feels non-existent. The most important aspect of any good ball and paddle game that adds to its challenge and appeal. It feels like the ball goes in the same angle every time you hit it over and over again. Even Alleyway on the Game Boy had better geometry. Either the devs rushed this game out of the door, or it was programmed by this guy. And there's like 6 of these on the eShop. Why? You couldn't get the first one right!
And will Maze Break by the same devs on the Wii U be that much better? What do you think?
Right out the bat, the game isn't spread onto both screens, so you need to go into settings to display on the gamepad, and the kicker is that it can only be displayed on one screen or the other. I haven't even pressed start game and already it's a masterpiece. But the game itself? My lord! Pinball Breaker's geometry was one thing, but this is unacceptable! The geometry in this game does whatever it wants, it never feels rewarding when hitting a block, and a lot of the time the ball tends to backtrack to the last screen and you just sit there waiting for it to go back, and it doesn't help that the levels last for an eternity. That was the first level? And the worst part of all, the ball bends its own geometry at points. That's illegal for a breakout game. Look at this! Look at this! How did this ever get past testing?
That's all I can take. If I have to give out an award for worst geometry ever in a video game, it would probably go to this. I've never played something that felt this broken in my entire life. And the fact the ball can do whatever it wants is inexcusable. One of the simplest games to make, and yet they still managed to screw it up. And not to mention, Nintendo actually looked at this trash heap and said, yeah, this is fine. But then again, they gave this the seal of approval, so sky's the limit, I guess.
Colors 3D, a painting application on the 3DS, and I had to say, a really solid one at that. It's easy to understand and follow, surprisingly versatile, and the time-lapse for the paintings are also pretty cool. Especially coming from one who has done their fair share of art on this channel. You even have some work provided by other artists to help get yourself inspired, and you can upload your own work onto an online gallery. It's not going to give Illustrator or Procreate a run for their money, and the lack of a paint bucket does feel odd. But for a nice cheap 3DS eShop painting application, it does the job. Finally, my Sonic drawing could one day be hung up in the Louvre. Speaking of... Nintendo 3DS Guide Louvre. That's right, Nintendo collaborated with the museum, and you could run 3DS systems as audio-visual guides to take around. It was made publicly available around 2013, and even had a whole direct about it. This is literally the entire Louvre museum featuring 30 hours of audio, 3D views of some work, over 1,000 photographs of artwork in the museum itself, with the artwork being zoomed in for a bigger and more detailed look at the Mona Lisa than you ever would in real life, as well as videos surrounding the museum's history and even having unique tours. And I don't know about you, but
I don't like crowds. They're coarse, rough, and irritating, and they get everywhere.
well, no worries, because in this software you'll never see a random guy take a selfie right in front of Venus de Milo ever again!
Oh boy!
The game did have a limited physical run in the Louvre's gift shop, but it would probably be cheaper to actually go there. This is a fantastic way of experiencing centuries of culture at the comfort of home, and an excellent alternative if you're like me trying to readjust to the world recently, especially after the Do that one more time and I swear to God. On the 3DS during Nintendo Video's lifetime, Nintendo collaborated with Armin to produce some 3D Shaun the Sheep short films on the service, and Shaun even had a Mario Maker costume later on. A good while after Nintendo Video went down, these shorts were released onto the eShop. Yeah, you can download videos on the 3DS. And these shorts are a nice treat for Armin fans like myself. And the one I got has a behind the scenes video. They sadly got delisted after a permanent price drop and shortly after Farmageddon came out. Thankfully, they're officially preserved on Nintendo and Shaun the Sheep's official YouTube channels. Heck, Nintendo did something similar with their Pigment shorts around the same time.
You know, Cartoon Network? I just gotta quickly say that I'm something of an early 2010s Cartoon Network enthusiast myself, and wish them a very happy 30th anniversary, especially after everything going on lately. And around the eShop's later years, we got a game based off Cartoon Network shows around the time. And guess what? It sucks.
The game has all of these characters splashing together and trying to get back home in typical crossover fashion, and the first levels take place in the world in Clarence, so you already know it's Game of the Year. And the gameplay is just awful. It never feels satisfying fighting the enemies, and that's an insult for characters like Finn and Jake. When looking at a good beat 'em up, when you hit someone, the attacks flow seamlessly from one to another, feeling extremely rewarding when landing a hit. Whilst here... no! The game may already be lackluster beyond belief, but the roster this game's going for is perplexing, and makes this game feel even more dated when you realize all of these shows have ran their course. Why aren't there any legacy characters like Ben 10, Johnny Bravo, the Powerpuff Girls, Jack, Lou, Courage, Dexter? Not that Dexter! Look at Nickelodeon All-Star Brawl, it's a completely different game for sure, but at least here, their characters weren't added because they have a new show going on or anything, but because they're legacy on the network and that fans genuinely want to play as them. Unlike this uninspired cowpat. So great job, Magic Pox, for making one of the worst beat-em-ups I ever played.
I spent real-life money on this game. I spent student loans on this. And you know what else? It's been ported to other consoles. And the best part? The Xbox One port costs $22.99! So, what did we learn throughout all of this? There were definitely games. Oh, who am I kidding? Why am I torturing myself with all these games? And yet, Nintendo, what's the goal of wiping all of these games out? Upsetting your fans? I could be out not having a social life, but no, here I am talking about Jett, Rockett 2, The Wrath of Taikai. Like, what am I even doing with my life? Thanks for watching.